Alfie Cox lying third overall going into today's stage. Enjoy.
A difficult day for everybody on the Dakar. A sandstorm sweeps into town. But Fabrizio Mioni makes the best of it, and he extends his lead by just a little. Whilst in the car section, you've got all of the desert, and then there's a roadblock. Looking back at yesterday, though, before we get underway with today's action, it was a real killer of a stage from Tajika down to Tchit, some 467 kilometers, catching many a crew out. A lot of dust, but more importantly, a lot of kilometers. Many punctures along the route, and including those soft dunes. There's just nothing like them when you're in the middle of Mauritania. You're weary, you're tired, you're into the third week of the Dakar rally. And for some, it's the end. Not a problem, though, for Russia's Vladimir Chigin. That's 12 tons of raw pig iron just going through the desert. But sometimes there's a problem of communication between driver and co-driver. The co-driver here completely losing his nut and laying into the driver. I'm telling you to go one way, you go the other, he says. Now get along and do it. The driver just saying it's just very difficult. The cars, of course, starting behind the motorcycles and soon catching them up. It's a very difficult and tiring rally. It's not reasonable at all at times. It's right on the limit for everyone. For 4 or 5 days just gone past, I don't get the joke anymore. The desert literally littered with pieces of machinery, and Terry Delaverne saying you're just in camel grass all the time. The dunes with very hot sand, big dunes that we cannot climb, so we go around them. We go right, we go left, we try every direction possible. For some, though, it is almost too much. This motorcycle rider saying, maybe I will sleep here tonight and pitch my tent. Didier P. deciding to stay in the desert during the night. And then, of course, the night did fall, and it does so at around 6:30 local time in Mauritania. But still many of the people soldiering on. The Sugawara truck blasting through the desert, totally unhindered. Trouble with the dark is, if there is any dust around, your headlights are just going to make it even worse for you. And of course, if you do get to the top of a dune and you wish to purvey the scenery in front of you, you just can't do it. Some people, though, did get to Tchit very early this morning, and these were the scenes that greeted them. It's ironic that this time last year on the rally, Tchit hosted one of the hottest days on the rally, full stop, some 46 degrees in temperature, and look at it today. You need to wrap yourself up and get those goggles on. And at the end of yesterday's stage this morning, this Argentine crew arriving and he's saying, we saw many, many trucks stuck in the dunes. We got lost last night, and of course we then lost a lot of time. It was very, very complicated. It was just incredible. And now I'm very happy to even be here today.
Estamos muy contentos porque pensábamos que se había terminado para nosotros.
And if it was difficult for the cars, what about some of the other trucks? And that is how soft the sand was. And then, of course, this particular truck going in so deep it was getting into the damp sand. Fernando Hill with the two-stage winning diesel turbo Seat also running into trouble, but eventually completing the stage. And for other people, they just gave up momentarily and had a night's sleep.
On a essayé de faire du hors-piste jusqu'à 4 heures du mat à peu près, 3-4 heures du mat. Après on s'est endormi.
In the stage, we slept there and then we continued this morning. I can only hope that we're not out of the rally, so thank you very much for waiting here at the finish. Other people just brought the bivouac a little earlier along the stage and teamed up with their service crews, put their tents up and gained some well-earned rest. Vanina Ricks here saying, I had a wonderful night in the dunes. It was easier for us as there were a lot of people helping us. And then it started raining. It was crazy, just crazy. And in the end, I got here at 8:30 this morning.
Puis c'est mis à pleuvoir comme en science-fiction, c'est dingue. Dingue, dingue, dingue.
C'est tellement facile jusqu'à Dakar que...
Stefan Pederhansel on the right-hand side and Thierry Delaverne on the left-hand side discussing how difficult the situations have been over the last few days. And six-time winner Pederhansel saying, we're not going to start this morning because we've had so many mechanical problems, so instead we're going to just organise what we need to make better on the car, to modify the car for next year. The Nissan, though, has been very good. We've won specials earlier on in the rally, both in Europe and in Morocco. We mustn't stop this, and we must continue on this form. So Stefan Pederhansel hosting the world's press this morning onto today's stage, and a very, very difficult one. The looping stage, the second time we've had such a stage in the 2002 Dakar, starting and finishing in Tchit, 422 kilometres. It's a stage, though, without GPS, so it's a case of follow your compass bearing and follow the road book. Certainly a stage for the navigators. In the motorcycle section, on the start line, it was Alfie Cox, all concentrated, along with Nani Roma. Fabrizio Mioni, the overall leader, and his teammates, Giovanni Sala from Italy. 0 kilometres on the road book, only another 422 to go. And leaving the start line just a few hundred yards outside of the bivouac, it was thumbs up for Heinz Kinney-Gartner and the rest of the KTM crew as he blasted off for what seemed like some into oblivion. A good day, though, for Giovanni Sala, jumping for joy on the heavier than the singles, of course, the V-twin KTM. Sala being victorious on the stage by 3 minutes and 45 seconds. However, a monstrous stage being completed in 6 hours and 10 minutes for Sala. Fabrizio Mioni, though, he was second on the stage, proving that it really was a stage for the twins. Mioni, though, he has more importantly put time into Nani Roma. And remember that the overall standings of last night was 1 minute between the Italian and the Spaniards. And after today, he's put another 2 minutes and 3 seconds into him. It's now 3 minutes and 3 seconds, the difference between first and second overall in the Dakar after nearly 40 hours of running. So Nani Roma, he said that today was just almost crazy, crazy, crazy. Just couldn't understand why they did such a stage. The camel grass, he said, will be coming into his dreams this evening. The camel grass here, the small tumps of grass, also causing problems for Alfie Cox, who, as always, was vociferous once he had got to the finish. He said that whoever invented that stage must be mad. Well, the Dakar is certainly a trier for many, many a rider. He says that he's been up and over, down and round, he's been every way, but almost forward at times. Alfie Cox, though, finishing 5th on the stage today. He's still in 3rd overall. Eric Bernard on board with him.
Quand vous êtes en train de rouler, vous pensez à quoi?
And the question coming from the helicopter.
Déjà, on pense toujours à se concentrer parce que je crois que l'Afrique est plein de pièges. Donc la première chose, c'est bien se concentrer. Et aujourd'hui, notamment, encore plus.
You have to concentrate a great deal on piece such as this. We've obviously got to focus on the road book today with the navigation. We've got no GPS for the 2nd time in the rally. Eric Bernard doing well in the overall standings on his number 12 machine. He's in 9th position overall. At the refueling, though, you can see that the sandstorm was continuing for all of the riders. The refueling zones being neutralised so that the first one there is not necessarily the first one out and gaining time, but certainly one of the most spectacular fuel stations on planet Earth. At one of the control points, the riders not having time to enjoy the view. Fabrizio Mioni, though, teaming up with Nani Roma, Alfie Cox and Giovanni Sala out of there. But problems for Carlo Dugavado. He is suffering from food poisoning, and he showed when he fell off the bike, completely damaging it. Jordi Arcarons was in trouble, but nearly in real trouble was Esteve Pujol. Sala getting the first win of 0-2 ahead of his teammate Mioni. Pujol lucky to get away with that incident in 3rd. Roma then in 4th, and Alfie Cox back in 5th. But overall, look at it. It was 1 minute. It's now 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Mioni to Roma. Cox chasing hard in 3rd. Sala at the finish here saying, no problem today. Well, he would say that. He won it. I was fast on the first part. And then I finished 1st at the refueling point. After that, I did some mistakes, but finally I finished with the others. The bike is okay. Nothing wrong with it at all for me today. Mioni here saying the organisation have almost played with us today. The last 40 kilometres in the camel grass were just awful and really very tiring. It's been very, very hard to ride in such conditions, but apart from that, everything has been okay with the motorcycle today.
Sono caduto subito dopo poco alla partenza, dopo 50 km, sempre nell'erba chameau, niente di grave, sono ripartito. Oggi va tutto, per ora tutto bene.
Isidore Esteve Pujol saying it was a very, very hard stage because of the tracks in amongst the very, very high camel grass. I started behind, but I soon joined Jordi Arcarons very quickly. He was my 8-minute man in front of me. I followed him until the refueling point, and then we were together and we felt very strong. I helped him, I stayed with him, he was okay, but then I left him. But then a further 15 Ks in, I hit a big tump of camel grass and the bike clipped and I went over it. I was not hurt, but sufficient to stop, and he then went away.
Yeah, today was really a day of human torture, I would say. When I came to the first Dakar in '98, I always thought that Patrick was a little bit of a tough man, and today, I tell you what, the most difficult day of the Dakar. We've done, I think, almost more than half the stage, just camel grass. And the last 100 kilometers has been second, third gear. It's been so tough. It was a difficult day to make any advance on the next riders. So I think tomorrow, the showdown again tomorrow, I think. But today was just a day to get to the finish and survive the day. It was a very tough day. Patrick is a crazy man, I think, at the end of the day.
Vickers van der Venter, the South African on his third Dakar, has always been at the sharp end of things right from the start. Once into Africa, he's easily been inside the top 40. A spirited performance, considering that the quads are not usually higher up the order. This is so because quads are hard to ride, hard to maintain, leaving a quad in Dakar as a red phenomenon.
Europe wasn't good for me for the weather. I don't like the cold weather, but as soon as we went to Africa, that the weather is very nice for us. I like this, that's what we used to. And I had a few problems with flats. Otherwise, everything going very well, and front shocks went. I got other new front shocks, so I look forward for the next half of the race to do it.
His quad is an 850 Rotax engine Bombardier out of Canada, a machine not often seen on the Dakar. He's changed the shockers, as he says, and you can see exactly why. Bad news, though, last night, as he was so close and yet so far from the bivouac here in Tajit, as a rear axle cried enough, and he's out of the Dakar. He has, though, another year to think about the Dakar Rally and maybe have a party with Alfie Cox at Dakar next year.
You go to Dakar?
Huh?
You go to Dakar?
Yeah, I will take a plane from Dakar.
See you next year.
Yeah, next year. Thank you. Today is not a good day. First, I got two flats. At one time, I couldn't believe it. And then the real axle bearings went. First, the right side. So I was trying, and then the left went. And the chain blade, you know, every time the chain came off. And at the end of the day, there's nothing left at the back. I destroy everything. 30 k's from here. So that's the end of Dakar for this year. Maybe next year.
Leaving the Dakar is never easy. The case for Vickers late last night here in Tajit. We hope to see him soon, next year. So the drama today on the descent down from the steep cliffs, befalling Hiroshi Matsuoka, just losing a little bit of grip, going up one side, but then here comes Jean-Pierre Fontenay, clipping the rear of his teammate, similar Mitsubishi, and you can't believe it, you got the entire desert at your beck and call, and two Mitsubishis try and fill the same space. Nobody injured, fortunately, but look at what the angle the cars were left at. Matsuoka's car completely wedged in between the blue Mitsubishi and the rocks, but soon Gilles Picard, the co-driver for Jean-Pierre Fontenay, out of the System 207 machine, moving the rocks, and so steep he himself nearly falling down the descent. But soon Matsuoka was out of trouble. Pascal Maimon, his co-driver, grabbing the notes off the dashboard, and the overall leader of the Dakar 2002 soon passing Jean-Pierre Fontenay and away. Matsuoka, though, really got a lick on soon after that. Eventually coming home to the finish and winning yet another stage in the Dakar 02. On board with the Japanese and the leader.
Good form, but so I need another competitor. So I want normally Baggy and another company.
500.
So we will compete, but this year, so we are very strong and strong team and strong car. So today, this year was
many parallel now.
Okay.
Cap 1-5.
Yep.
Masuoka happy to be leading, but maybe looking once more for the battle between the Mitsubishis and the Schlesser buggies and the Nissans. Well, the winner from yesterday, Jean-Pierre Fontenay, being second quickest through the stage, only 4 minutes and 41 seconds back of Masuoka. He certainly gave the Mitsubishi a real pounding. Not a good day for Kenjiro Shinazuka. He broke the rear suspension and he lost precious time. Thierry Delazotti, the co-driver underneath the car, saying, we've been here for some 5 or 10 minutes. We've lost a bit of time, but we're just repairing it, and we will be getting to the finish very soon. We'll be okay. Shinazuka struggling with the camel grass and his injured back. Not a good day for last year's winner, Jutta Kleinschmidt. She broke a prop shaft again, just as she had a few days ago, but Gregoire Demavius soon coming past her. On the stage, that was Demavius finishing back in 6th position as the camel caravan went on. 8th overall, though, is Barkat. 9th overall is Clever Kolberg from Brazil. Whilst 11th overall is the youngest driver in the event, Frenchman Nicolas Michelin. His co-driver Jean-Michel Polato saying, today it's going to be very, very hard because in the sandstorm it's very difficult to follow the tracks of the previous car because the wind just covers them pretty well instantaneously. We've got to be very careful because a stage without GPS, such as we're on today, we've got to follow the bearings and the distances. For sure tonight it's going to be all change. Nicholas, though, saying, when I went to breakfast this morning, I saw others arriving from yesterday's stage, and it's these people who are the best. We arrived this morning at 6 o'clock, and then we left at 10:30 this morning for this stage. It's already hard for the others today. They really are the best. Jean-Jacques Ratet, he is 13th overall with his Toyota. While Jean-Francois Guinaud, he's 14th overall with his Nissan. In the production class, Thierry Delaverne, he's still leading overall, but it's a very close battle between himself and Strugo in the Mercedes. The Japanese versus the German manufacturer. So Masuoka victorious once more ahead of his teammate Fontenay. Shinazuka lucky to lose only 22 minutes, and likewise Kleinschmidt with that broken drive shaft. Overall, Masuoka's lead is nearly 1 hour ahead of his teammate Shinazuka. Kleinschmidt, though, only a few seconds back in third. It's very close for that final podium position. Masuoka saying it was very long and always in the camel grass. Very, very tiring. But at one point, going down from the big descent, it was impossible to turn, and I hit a rock, and then Jean-Pierre Fontenay arrived behind me, and he hit the back of the car. It's okay, but it was not that serious. We didn't lose too much time. Jean-Pierre Fontenay saying 10 kilometers before the finish we came down this big descent and I hit Masuoka. We were lucky to restart. Gilles Picard he was a little hurt, a little injured with his hand, but today we were at the summit, and I think that behind us it's going to be very, very difficult for all of the other runners.
Ça va être grave.
Onto the trucks then, and no lesser difficulties out there in the sand for the big monsters of the deserts. Andre de Azevedo, he broke his transmission axle, and he could be in jeopardy losing his third place overall. Sugawara is going up in the overall ranking. He's doing well in his Japanese Hino. Vladimir Chagin, always fighting for the overall leadership, though. Battling it out with Carol Laprace in the Tatra. Laprace some 38 minutes behind. Paolo Barria in his Unimog 403, the former Grand Prix Formula One driver. He's quite a way back, but he's still having fun in the desert. He was laughing at breakfast this morning and even taking time to take a photograph of his crew in the middle of a sandstorm. So tomorrow's stage from Tchit to Kiffa, the second marathon stage. The crew setting off from Tchit directly down to Kiffa itself, where there is a compulsory break of some 8 hours before they get going again at 2200 hours that night for the 14th stage. It's 467 kilometers in length, and it's going to be once more very, very tough indeed before they finally arrive in Dakar the day after tomorrow.